Breeders' Cup pre-entries are in, and a record number have RSVP'd 200 horses. 13 races. Horse racing's World Championship event is starting to take shape. So who is the fastest thoroughbred in North America?
Secret Circle gives Martin Garcia another one.
Who is the nation's best 2-year-old and early favorite for next year's Kentucky Derby?
Scintillating performance from American Pharaoh in the front-runner stakes.
Daredevil with a sparkling performance here.
What an impressive 2-year-old Keeneland sales grad, Carpe Diem to take it.
And who deserves the title of 2014 Horse of the Year?
Those two down to the wire in a thrilling finish that goes to main sequence.
Shared Belief going to just keep his unbeaten record. Yes, he has. Shared Belief, 7 for 7.
California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
Pursuit of the Cup starts right now.
Skywalker is still there. Carrying a huge upset looming here. And they're coming down to the finish. And it is pleasantly perfect. Raven Pass and Frankie Dettori have won the class. Zenyatta, what a performance. One we'll never forget.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, home of North America's first thoroughbred auction company. Fasig-Tipton, get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, the best online wagering experience in racing. Visit TwinSpires.com to sign up today.
The distinction of most horses trained in Breeders' Cup 31 does not belong to a Pletcher or a Baffert. Belongs to a 35-year-old trainer born just miles from Saratoga. Chad Brown, armed and dangerous for Breeders' Cup 2014. His former boss and mentor would be proud. You realize it took Hall of Fame trainer Bobby Frankel 38 starts to win his first Breeders' Cup event. Chad Brown won in his Breeders' Cup debut. That was Merriam in the 2008 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Now, just over 12 years after Brown first went to work for the late, great Hall of Fame trainer, here he is with the most horses in the 2014 Breeders' Cup. He'll saddle 12 next week in racing's World Championships. Welcome, everyone, to Pursuit of the Cup. Lafitte Pinkai, joined by Christina Blacker for the next 60 minutes. Christina, pretty amazing when you consider what Chad Brown has been able to accomplish in a relatively short period of time.
It really is. Chad Brown took out his trainer's license in November of 2007. He won with his very first ever starter, and at Saratoga, no less. As you mentioned, he also won with his very first Breeders' Cup starter in Merriam. Todd Pletcher actually holds the record for the most Breeders' Cup starters. He had 17 back in 2006, but that was nearly a dozen years into his career. Brown starts 12 this year. He started 10 last year, and that was just 6 years after taking out his trainer's license. Some people go an entire career without getting one horse to the Breeders' Cup. It's incredible.
Well, it's scary to think what he could accomplish when it's all said and done. But as for this year and the horses Brown will be saddling, Christina, who gives him the best chance to win a Breeders' Cup race this year?
Well, based on the winners that he's had in the past, you'd have to go with a filly going long on the turf course. He has wins with Merriam and Zagora. So I'm going to go to the Juvenile Fillies Turf, which isn't really enlightening because he has 4 pre-entered there, but specifically Lady Eli, I think, is his most likely chance for a winner. She's 2 for 2, having won the Miss Grillo back at Belmont Park. She ran a 9 on the Thorograph figures that day. That's one of the fastest of any filly pre-entered in the Juvenile Fillies Turf, including the Euros.
Impressive. And guess who is going to be riding one of the Chad Brown trainees in Breeders' Cup 31 as we check in with Millie Ball standing by with this Pursuit of the Cup news update. Millie, the Iceman cometh again, and yet another comeback for the comeback kid, Hall of Fame jockey Gary Stevens.
Indeed, Gary Stevens who just had a knee replacement surgery this summer, is going to make it back in time for the Breeders' Cup. I spoke with Chad Brown, who confirmed Gary has been booked to ride Civolier in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf for owner Martin Schwartz. Chad has had the filly for about a month.
I actually got a phone call from Ron Anderson yesterday, and he'd asked me when I was going to be ready, and I'd already picked a horse up for Bob Baffert in an undercard race on Friday, and I said I'll be riding that weekend, and what's up? And he texted me back, and he called me and he said Chad Brown's got a couple of fillies. Marty Schwartz had called me earlier in the week, and excited about this Irish filly, French runner. coming over, and I looked at her form. She's by Sea the Stars. She's never been, over 7 furlongs, but by Sea the Stars out of King Mambo mare, and looked at her form and everything, and I found out that's the one I was riding, so pretty excited about it. Just came along a lot faster than what I thought I was going to. I put a target date of December 26th, and after getting on horses for 3 days, I knew that it was going to be a lot sooner than that, and after 4 or 5 days of getting on horses, just it progressed. My fitness level was a lot higher than what I had expected, and until I got on a horse, I didn't know really what to expect, but it was 2 thumbs up.
Trainer Richard Mandella gave us an update this morning on champion mare Beholder, who was out of the Breeders' Cup Distaff after spiking a fever.
Beholder had a little temperature yesterday, but it corrected itself by afternoon, and her blood is back to normal. She has a white blood count of 9,000, and it was 14 at the start, so we're very relieved with that, and I'm just watching her walk around the barn. She's kind of jumping and kicking again and looking like her old self.
Her Eminency is out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf due to colitis, but her trainer Mike Stidham said her treatment and recovery are going well.
Sunday night, we sent her to Chino Valley Equine Clinic. She had 104 temperature and a pretty severe case of colitis. So we got her there, and she actually made some pretty quick improvement. Her white count leveled off, temperature came back into the normal range. But anytime you're dealing with colitis, it's a day-to-day kind of a situation, and you can think you're in good shape. Things can go south pretty quick on you. So, she's still there. They're monitoring her daily. She continues to show, favorable signs of improvement. And, we're just hoping for the best and keeping our fingers crossed that, she's going to get through this and be able to come back next year as a 3-year-old.
Several Breeders' Cup horses hit the track this morning to put in a work. Imperative, who is pre-entered in the Breeders' Cup Classic for George Papapadromo, worked 6 furlongs in 1:12-1 in company with stablemate Mr. Sexy. Mr. Sexy is on the also eligible list for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He worked in 6 furlongs in 1:12-2.
Yeah, he went 3 quarters with Mr. Sexy, and they went great. They went 1:12-1. I got him in, Galobat strong, and he worked great. What can I say?
Jockey Joel Rosario is only 2 for 51 in the Breeders' Cup competition, but that isn't preventing several top trainers from employing his services for Racing Championship weekend. As of this morning, Rosario is scheduled to ride in 11 of the 13 Breeders' Cup races, according to his agent, Ron Anderson. Most notably, Tonalist in the Classic, Close Hatches in the Distaff, Imagining in the Turf, and Bobby's Kitten in the Turf Sprint. The only 2 races Rosario has yet to secure a mount in are the Sentiment Jet Juvenile and Express Bet Sprint. Rosario's 2 Breeders' Cup victories to date, Dancing in Silks in the 2009 Sprint at 25-1 and Dakota Phone at 37-1 in the 2010 Dirt Mile. And speaking of jockeys and Breeders' Cup, the Classic mounts are coming into place. All but one Breeders' Cup Classic horse has a jockey commitment. The only Breeders' Cup Classic mount still open is currently Prayer for Relief. The big news of the jockey mounts was concerning Imperative. Frankie Dettori will now ride in the Breeders' Cup Classic, even though regular rider Kent DeSormo will be back aboard mounts on Sunday. Trainer George Papapadromo explains the jockey switch.
After Ken getting hurt and all that, so I wouldn't know if he was going to come back, or we weren't sure he was going to run for the Breeders' Cup and all that. So we decided to make a little change, and we went for Frankie.
And he races for Morinaga Kenji. That's KM Racing Enterprises, who claimed Imperative for $50,000 just over a year ago. He's earned these connections $1.25 million. That's an impressive turnover, and he heads for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're going to take our first break here on Pursuit of the Cup, but when we come back, we'll look at that $5 million Classic and delve a little deeper into the $2 million Ladies' Classic.
31st Breeders' Cup Classic. 15 pre-entered, 14 can go. The only real surprise, learning that Jimmy Jerkins Travers spoiler VE Day would be pre-entered, and he has been. Usual suspects are here. Challenge winners Bayern, Majestic Harbor, Moreno, Shared Belief, and Tonalist. Shared Belief, anticipated favorite, and in action at his home base at Golden Gate, Christina, Tuesday, drilling 3/4 in 1:14.2.
Yeah, 14-2, out 7 furlongs and 1:27.2. He spotted those two workmates 4 lengths, then came up the rail on them. It was a stamina work. Clear they were trying to teach him something by weaving through the inside. Overall, though, I would characterize it as very workmanlike. You can see Russell Bay sort of niggling at him the entire way around, but that just might be him. That might be one of his quirks. He's scheduled to go another 4 furlongs on Tuesday and then ship down here to Santa Anita.
More classic works. Last Saturday at Los Alamitos, Kentucky Derby, Preakness winner California Chrome, 6 furlongs, 1:12.1 with Victor Espinosa aboard.
It was a good time, and he was well off the rail the entire way around for this 3/4. He looks like he's just cruising. He's in hand. He's in the bridle the whole way around there. Bear in mind, these two works that you're seeing are over very different surfaces. They skip over the ground at Los Al. It's a little deeper and more tiring up at Golden Gate. I would characterize this as a really good work, but California Chrome has always been a really good workhorse.
Deep West Coast 3-year-old contingent, Bob Baffert's Bayern, one-dimensional. Speed, Christina, and that's kind of a problem.
It really is, and the post position draw will be so key with regard to Bayern, especially in relation to Marino. The more I like him, though, the more I see him, the more I like Bayern for this race.
Baffert has had real high hopes for Bayern all along.
Well, we thought we were going to win the Kentucky Derby with him earlier in the year, and he just had he was just immature, and just took him a while to come around. He was a late foal, and trying to figure out his style, and he really wants to get out there and really roll. And unfortunately, there's some other horses that sort of have the same style. So when you have a one-dimensional pace setter, it's tough. Just like with Game Mondude, it's so tough because they'll take your weapon away, and so. But I can't worry about that. We just let him roll away from there and run his race.
Breeders' Cup Distaff, the Longines Distaff with Beholder out. Race looks a lot different. 12 pre-entered. Close hatches, Don't Tell Sophia, Iotapa, the Peruvian, Valiant Amelia, the challenge winners. Untappable, top 3-year-old filly in the country. Will be one of, if not the favorite. Close hatches, needs to bounce back. Inexplicably flat, Christina, in her Distaff prep, finishing off the board in the Spinster.
Yeah, she was 4th, defeated 7 1/4. In the last 23 editions of the Distaff, 9 have won their final prep. 6 were 2nd, 3 were 3rd, and 3 were 4th. Of those 3 that finished 4th, they were all within 4 lengths of the winner. She was defeated 7 1/4. We need to see a big rebound for close hatches.
The Judd Montmayor, Joel Rosario, to retain the mount. And the filly who debuted for $50,000 in the summer of 2012. Iotapa for John Sadler. Sadler, 0 for 31 in Breeders' Cup competition.
She freaked in the Vanity over this track. If she can do that again, she could win, but I'm not sure if she can. But I think the key for her is actually to make the lead in order to run those huge numbers. Look at the Vanity and then look at the Santa Maria back in February. Those are her most impressive races. The trouble she's going to run into is a lot of speed in this race.
So she's not Rachel, but she's real good. Kentucky Oaks winner, untappable, maybe the Distaff filly to beat.
She's been here training all month. With all the trouble that she had, I really don't think you can hold the Haskell against her. And if you forgive her for that race, she's essentially perfect for the year. So much talk about the 3-year-olds. Let's not forget about this one. I think she's one of the most likely 3-year-old winners as we get closer to the Breeders' Cup.
Do you care that she struggled here at Santa Anita as a 2-year-old filly in the Breeders' Cup last year whatsoever? Untappable?
No, I'm willing to forgive her for that. I mean, especially the way that horses develop from 2 to 3. Untappable came out here. It was a disappointing race for her last year, but she really is a different filly this year, and you saw that going through with her multiple Grade 1 wins. As I said, you cannot hold the defeat in the Haskell against her. And her win in the Cotillion, even though it was a little workmanlike, she came from farther off the pace that day than many of the other runners did on a very speed-biased track. She outran the bias that day, still got up to win. She is out there like a champion every time she competes, and I think she rebounds in this year's Distaff.
And 2 of the last 3 Distaff winners, 3-year-old fillies. Beholder last year, and of course Royal Delta under the lights at Churchill Downs in 2011. We'll step aside once more. On the show, when we come back, there are titles to be defended. The Europeans, Magician, Can he go back-to-back in the Breeders' Cup Turf for Aidan O'Brien? And Dank looking to join Ouija Board as the only two-time Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf champion. Millie Ball's International Report when we come back.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. No one has a longer pedigree. And TwinSpires.com. Wager on the go with TwinSpires mobile smartphone app. TwinSpires.com, where players win.
Welcome back to Pursuit of the Cup. Time now for our international report. And we have internationally trained horses pre-entered in 11 of the 13 divisions, with a foreign absence in only the juvenile fillies and filly and mare sprint. Rich Tapestry from Hong Kong, Bronzo from Chile, Valiant Amelia from Peru, all three of whom are at Santa Anita acclimatizing for the last few months, and a total of 32 individual European entries. A few of those are unlikely to draw into the fields, but IRB Adrian Beaumont is anticipating about 30 runners. This number is very pleasing compared with the last 2 years the Breeders' Cup has been run at Santa Anita with a dirt surface. 16 Euros competed in 2013 and 24 in 2012. It's also exciting to have two defending champions returning from Europe in Dank and Magician. The latter is one of 5 horses pre-entered from the Aidan O'Brien barn. Here's a stat or two. O'Brien has an 8 for 88 win record at the Breeders' Cup. 18% of his starters have been females, of which he is 0 for 16. We saw an impact in the newbies we had last year, winning 3 races, all in their debut training appearances at the Breeders' Cup. Joe Hughes won the marathon, Charlie Hills won the juvenile fillies turf, and Charlie Appleby took the juvenile turf in his first season training for Godolphin. This year, we welcomed some more young blood. Newmarket-based Hugo Palmer, in his 4th season as a trainer, brings Actabante for the juvenile turf. This colt is special to Hugo because he provided him with his first group win, taking the Solario Stakes in August. He's a strong traveling horse with a powerful turn of foot, a dangerous combination when employed. Actabante pleased Hugo in his final piece of work today around a bend, and Olivier Pellier has the call in California. Also from Newmarket, pre-entering Wet Sail in the juvenile turf, Charlie Fellows is the youngest licensed trainer in England, aged 27, and formerly an assistant trainer to James Fanshawe. Wet Sail was 3rd in a 6-furlong listed race at Redcar, closing like he was crying out for more distance. I also spoke with Chilean trainer Jorge Inda at Santa Anita this morning. He pre-entered Breeders' Cup Challenge winner Bronzo in the Dirt Mile. It's an interesting story. Inda is a 3rd-generation horseman. He's a practicing veterinarian in Chile, and when Bronzo's original trainer died of a heart attack 2 years ago, the owner asked if Inda would take out his trainer's license and train the horse. It was immediately a successful partnership as Bronzo rattled off wins in his first 3 races. After the son of Versace Pegasus won the prestigious Group 1 in Chile, Inda began to plan his path to the Breeders' Cup through the Win and You're In Copa de Oro. So far, the plan has worked to perfection, and following his mild breeze at Santa Anita yesterday, Bronzo is 1 work away from trying to make history and become the first Chilean-bred and trained racehorse to win a Breeders' Cup. Since the inauguration of the Breeders' Cup, we have seen 16 females beat the boys. Pebbles, Miesque, Ridgewood Pearl, and Goldikova come to mind, all trained in Europe. Chiquita, a daughter of Arc winner Monjeur, has first preference of running against the boys in the turf for Ballydoyle, and Alain de Roy de Prezaveda is pre-entered as her first preference in the mile. And an update on shipping plans. Just the Judge is scheduled to arrive at Santa Anita tomorrow after a productive trip to Woodbine. She will use her recent EP Taylor win as a springboard to the filly and mare turf. Brown Panther never got the chance to run in the International after dumping jockey Richard Kingscote in the post braid and was scratched. He joins Just the Judge on the flight that arrives tomorrow. And Casper Netcher won the Nearctic but flew back to Amsterdam and comes with the French horses on Saturday. He was pre-entered for the turf sprint. Now, when we come back from the break, we'll look at who the Euros will be facing in the juvenile turf and juvenile fillies and dig a little bit deeper into the Dirt Mile.
First race of this year's Cup, 8th Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, 23 entered, 3 cross-entered, the Great War. First preference Juvenile. Danny Boy War Envoy cross-entered, first preference here. War Envoy looks like the best of the Europeans for Coolmore and Hayden O'Brien. The Coolmore-O'Brien team ahead away from having won the last 3 editions of this event. Coolmore also owns Hootenanny, Christina, back in the States after spending the summer in Europe for Wesley Ward.
Frankie Dettori is expected to ride. He's the winner of the Windsor Castle at Royal Ascot, second behind the Wow Signal in the Prix Morny, who interestingly enough was ridden by Frankie Dettori that day. The test for Hootenanny will be the distance. He's only sprinted thus far. It shouldn't be a problem for him as a son of Quality Road, but it is one thing to beat the Euros sprinting early at 2. It's another thing to beat them routing at this point.
Domestic Lawn Ranger Kenny McPeak's trainee, winner of the Win and You're In Bourbon Stakes at Keeneland 4 weeks ago.
He had a perfect trip in the Bourbon, too, and he's up against it, taking on the Euros, who hold a 5-2 advantage in this race over the Americans in 7 editions. And speaking of those Euros, they were also second 3 times, third once, and fourth 3 times as well. And when you consider they only send 2 or 3 each year anyways, horses like Lawn Ranger are really up against it. The lesson? Bet a Euro trifecta.
Kenny McPeak and the owner, Fraternity Brothers Lawn Ranger. Dirt Mile now, 12 pre-entered, 4 cross-entered. Big Bane Theory, first preference Mile. Bourbon Courage, first preference Sprint. Capo Bastoni, Handsome Mike, first preference. Here you have the Chilean import Bronzo, defending champ Golden Sense, the challenge winners. Golden Sense, likely favorite in a race no favorite, has won in the first 7 editions.
And I'll tell you, if I'm Golden Sense, I'm really not afraid of anybody on the pre-entry list. And that's not to knock anyone else, but that's because this horse is that good. He will also be such a good sire whenever he does move ahead. You look at how durable this horse has been since the 2-year-old sales.
Optimistic Leandro Mora heading into the Dirt Mile with a defending champion.
Hopefully he'll just repeat it like the way he did it, and the feel is pretty much the same. And we feel comfortable, so that's my goal, though. As there's always a pressure going on the Breeders' Cup no matter what. He's doing very good up to the race. I'm happy with it.
And he was awesome last year, Golden Sense. Juvenile Fillies Turf, 19 pre-entered. That's including her Eminency, who withdrew on Tuesday. Only 2 cross-entered. 2 challenge winners are here. Conquest Harlenet. Natalma winner, Reina de Bateria. She won the Jessamine at Keeneland. Chad Brown has 4. Lady Eli, Partisan Politics, Chevalier. Tammy the Torpedo, and Wesley Ward's Sunset Glow, unraced since taking down the Grade 1 Del Mar Debutante.
And it's looking like she'll have about 5 works in the 2 months since that Del Mar Debutante. But this is a plan for Wesley Ward, who does do this when horses have done quite a lot in an early campaign. He gives them some time. The concern for her is that her turf number is not as strong as her synthetic numbers.
Wesley Ward needs Sunset Glow to be very focused going into the Cup.
Best thing to do would be to go into the Breeders' Cup with a fresh mind on a horse. The best place for that would be Keeneland. It's such a beautiful, opulent place. They've been firing bullets every week on a grass course over there at Keeneland. They've been gracious enough to let her breathe on the grass. It's just such a lush grass course that, it's a little bit of a giving course, too, to where they really get a lot out of it, that she breathes wonderful on it every week, and I couldn't ask for anything better than right now. We're pretty much done training. She's probably going to do something nice and easy here before she gets on the plane and heads out there, and then we're ready to go.
Wesley Ward, 0 for 16 thus far in the Breeders' Cup. Best finish to date last year. Judy the Beauty, runner-up finish to Groupie Doll in the Filly Mare Sprint. When we return, pre-entries in the Juvenile Fillies. Filly Mare Turf and Filly Mare Sprint. England's Dank back for more for Sir Michael Stout, and Breeders' Cup winning owner Carlo Vaccaressa back in the Cup, this time with a new occupation. Stay tuned. Fourteen Hands Winery, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, 15 pre-entered, 2 cross-entered. 3 of the challenge winners from the division are here. Angela Renee, Chandelier Victor, By the Moon, Frisette, Christina's Journey, Pocahontas, Peace and War, Alcibiades winner, Injured, Withdrawn. A few days ago, She's Complete and Lady Zazu both have first preference in the Juvenile Filly Turf. As for Todd Pletcher's Angela Renee, here she is galloping yesterday at Santa Anita.
Beautiful pedigree, this daughter of Bernardini. The New York-based fillies have never won a Santa Anita juvenile fillies, but she came early here and prep, so she's kind of in the middle with that victory in the Chandelier, and she's been keeping very good company. Look at Condo Commando, who beat her 2 starts back. She's not pre-entered. By the Moon came back to win the Frisette, and then Cavorting, also not pre-entered, who defeated her 3 starts back in the Adirondack.
Yeah, Todd Pletcher's feathered exiting the Frisette, as is Wonder Gal, and the winner By the Moon. Tough race to gauge considering the condition of the track.
I give By the Moon a lot of credit. She was involved early and running hard the whole way. It was a valiant effort on her part, even with the time not being as sparkling given the track surface. Wonder Gal was gritty. You can see she's tired, but she kind of keeps fighting on along the inside there. And Feathered, you could tell she absolutely hated that track surface. She is capable of a lot more on a fast track.
Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, 17 pre-entered, 8 cross-entered. Day at the Spa, Just the Judge, Paranda, Fee Solana, Secret Gesture, each first preference here. L'Amour de ma Vie and Vita, first preference in the mile. Chiquita, first preference in the turf. Defending champ Dank has pre-entered, along with 6 other U.S. debuting European, as Nick Luck would call them, Raiders. Speaking of which, Ireland's Fee Solana. Surprised to see her here at all, Christina, with first preference in the Filly Mare Turf instead of the mile?
Not really surprised. You know, her mile races this year have actually been very good, which leads you to believe that a 1.25 miles here in the States should be perfect for her. The Euro's very strong in this race, but only one of them came into the U.S. off a win, which is very interesting. All of those who lost at the Grade 1 level or Group 1 level, and 4 of them were facing males in that circumstance. She fits that to a T.
And the lumbering Abaco. For Shug McGahee, quality mare just takes her a long time to get things going sometimes.
She's a 6-year-old. She seeks to become the first 6-year-old to win this race. She's right there, and I do think she's improving. She makes the race off of graded stakes points. She's 1 for 7 in 2014, but on the board in 5 of those 7 against graded stakes company.
And with these pre-entries, we discussed the cross-entered horses. Is there a difference between those that have first preference here versus second preference there? Does it really matter?
It doesn't really. They don't really hold their feet to the fire in terms of those first and second preferences. And for that reason, these fields are very fluid. You see multiple cross entrants, and you can see that some of the trainers were probably just wanting to see where other horses end up before making their decisions. So those that are maybe 2, 3, 4 on that second list of runners have a very good chance of drawing into the main body of the field for the Breeders' Cup. We really won't know until the draw when those official decisions are made, Lafitte. But in essence, no, it really doesn't make a difference. You can write first or second preference and then do whatever you want when it's time to enter.
Final thought on Abaco for Shug McGahee. It's amazing. He's won the Breeders' Cup Distaff, the older mare race, 3 times. First start ever in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf with Abaco. We'll see how she does coming off of that race in the Flower Bowl. All right, well, as far as the rankings, we focus this week for Jeff Siegel in the Filly Mare Turf Sprint division. Here is his Siegel 6, brought to you by TwinSpires.com.
In a race in which the European contingent appears to be stronger than usual, we'll begin at number 6 with Secret Gesture, a genuine and consistent filly. First or second in 8 of 11 career starts, the daughter of Galileo thrives on firm ground, and that's the main reason she's here. At 5, we have the Irish-bred Fee Solana, winner of the Group 1 Matron Stakes at Leopardstown in mid-September. She's been primarily raced at much shorter distances, but she did break her maiden at 1.25 miles in Italy 2 years ago, for whatever that's worth. 4th ranked Just the Judge is being wheeled back quickly by trainer Charles Hills after her impressive victory in the E.P. Taylor Stakes up at Woodbine a couple of Sundays ago. Earlier, she performed admirably when 3rd in the Beverly Deep, and if her improvement continues, she will be a handful. Stephanie's Kitten is our 3rd-rated entrant, and she's clearly the most dangerous of the Americans. Her victory in the Flower Bowl was legit, and her good tactical speed and sharp turn of foot increases her chances for a trouble-free journey. The Dermot well-trained Tarfasha checks in at number 2. She was a Group 2 winner at the Curragh in September, but her best performance this year may have been when she was an excellent runner-up to Tagruda in the English Oaks at Epsom. But to be the champ, they'll all have to beat the champ, and the champ is Dank, who will try to salvage what has been an otherwise disastrous 2014. She's winless in just 2 starts this year and hasn't been out since finishing a dull 5th at Royal Ascot in June. But trainer Sir Michael Stout says Dank is back to her best, and that is good enough for me.
Wonder who Jeffrey has on top in the Filly Mare Sprint Division. That is Super 6 for the Filly Mare Turf Division, brought to you by TwinSpires.com. You can bet over 200 tracks from home, online, or on the go with TwinSpires Mobile. Go to www.twinspires.com or call 1-877-SPIRES-1. Join today. Receive a $100 sign-up bonus. TwinSpires.com, where players win. To the DraftKings Filly Mare Sprint. 7 furlongs, $1 million only. 11 pre-entered. Artemis Agriterra won the Grade 1 Ballerina Saratoga Challenge event. Lee Court did the same at Keeneland in the TCA Stakes. Gary Mandel is living the life, cross-centered, but first preference here, Christina. As for Artemis Agriterra, she better break cleaner in this race than she did in her last, the Gallant Bloom, which nearly cost her.
The thing about the Gallant Bloom is it's a little bit of a red flag. She broke so slowly, and then she was just so sluggish into stride. She got there on guts and class, but with an extended drive from about the half-mile pole home, it was a hard and taxing race on her after 2 blockbuster races at Saratoga. I hope she didn't do too much this summer and isn't on a downhill trajectory right now.
So we'll see about Artemis Agriterra, Millie Ball. As for trainer Michael Hushin, he's trying to win his first race on a Breeders' Cup stage. So is trainer Carlo Vaccaressa, Millie. Now he knows what it feels like to own a Breeders' Cup champion. Now he's finding out how difficult it is to train a racehorse up to the World Championships.
Carlo's actually worked with racehorses in one aspect or another for most of his life, but now, as you said, Lafitte, he is living his dream as the trainer. And in about a year, he's pole vaulted his way all the way to the World Championships with little Alexia. But it's very much a family affair for the Vaccaressas as he leads us into his story and his path to the Breeders' Cup. Take a look.
I've been trying to do this for many, many years. I used to have a farm in Ocala, and I was breaking horses, but it was a different level. I got involved more with horses when they'll send a few horses to Gulfstream Park during the summer meet. I was there every single day. And one morning I say, if I'm here anyway, just let me do it on my own. The only thing I have going on my side is the owner is my wife. So you have to listen to, I don't know if it's good or bad, you know. It's a tremendous responsibility, not only for my wife, for myself, for the sport, for the bettors, for the horse. My son Nick, he loved the sport. He loved the sport, he loved the horses, he loved HRTV. He's a little great ambassador for the sport. And now he goes around me. He sent text messages to Alan Jerkins, he sent text messages to Fernando and this and that, you know. He said, my dad is trying to do this, I think he's making a mistake, you know, but he's a good boy. I mean, he wants to be a trainer in the worst way. Alexis, we always knew when she was with Dale told me that she's a quality filly. Actually, Dale called me one day and said, listen, I think I'm going to run it first time out on the Pocahontas. He thought a lot of her. And then she got hurt. And he ran, I think in February, he ran again my Miss Sophia, a filly that Pat Pletcher told me that she was the real deal. And she won the race. And I ran in a stake in Gulfstream Park, and she won. From there, we put him in the test, and she was right there. She didn't have all the problems from the starting gate to the backstretch and on top of the lane. She would be a lot closer. She lost, I think, by 3/4 of a length. Then we tried to stretch it out and send it to a cotillion, and the racetrack that day was like concrete, and you know, she didn't run, and she got lost by 3.5 lengths. I think she's a quality filly. She deserved to be here. And we'll see. I mean, this is the big dance, you know. I mean, you're running for the best of the best, and hopefully she doesn't disappoint us. For a person who started training, and this is the first year, and have kind of a success that I had in Gulfstream Park, and come back here and win a Grade 1, I mean, that would be magnificent.
And little Alexia will be the least experienced member of that filly and mare sprint with only 4 starts. And as Lafitte and Christina were talking about at the top of the show, Carlo is hoping to follow in those footsteps of Chad Brown, trying to win his first Breeders' Cup race with his very first starter. Well, it's time now to take another break on Pursuit of the Cup, but we'll come back with a mixture bag here. The turf sprint, the juvenile, and the turf. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. Get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, your home for online wagering. Visit TwinSpires.com and join today for a $100 sign-up bonus.
Turf Sprint. 29 pre-entered. Let them all run. The Breeders' Cup Grand National down the hill. 10 cross-entered, including some big names. Bobby's Kitten. Renee's got Zip Silencio, first preference here, along with Rock Me Baby, Eddie's first Mr. Sexy. Kygan, first preference Mile, Living the Life, Filly Mare Sprint, Windfire, and Indexical, first preference in the sprint, Christina. And how good is the Coolmore Ice Wine Stable Colt? No, nay, never. Perfect on grass. Group 1 winner in Europe, graded stakes winner here.
I feel like I've been on repeat, but we've talked about how you need to have experience over this course. It's a new challenge, but this horse can seemingly do anything. Wesley Ward's saying, quote, his physical makeup is striking. It's like the ultimate specimen of a racehorse. To do what he did off a 7-month layoff in the Woodford is amazing.
Very high praise from Wesley Ward on No Nay Never.
He's doing great. He had a beautiful work the other day on the grass at Keeneland as well. And really, really excited about this guy. He's probably the best horse I've ever trained to date. And, extremely excited of this race coming up. Sunday or Monday, get to work in. His flight isn't until the 28th.
Local horses have dominated this event down the hill. Marty Jones hoping that trend continues this year with Ambitious Brew.
Ambitious Brew was handed his first hill defeat last time out in the Eddie D. He fits the profile of a winner of this race with his success down the course and his versatility. Mike Smith rides this horse, whereas he rode No Nay Never in the Woodford last time out. But I spoke to Brad Pegram this morning. This is where he ends up. Marty Jones looking for his first Breeders' Cup win.
Interesting. The Sentient Jet Breeders' Cup Juvenile, 17 pre-entered, 3 cross-entered. Really does feel like the big 3 and everyone else. Challenge winners, American Pharaoh for Bob Baffert. Todd Pletcher's Daredevil, Carpe Diem, they'll be the 3 favorites. Bourbon winner Danny Boy, Coolmore's War Envoy, first preference in the Juvenile Turf. Coolmore's The Great War, first preference here. We start with American Pharaoh, and he does have that home field advantage, Christina, and not 1, but 2 Grade 1 victories.
I spoke to Zoe about this horse this morning, and she said that every work in the morning has been better and better. They had a horse latch onto him to see if he would get rank. He didn't do that. 2 weeks ago, they put him behind horses to take dirt. They put him on the lead with others chasing him. With every scenario in the mornings, he's passed with flying colors.
But this is a deep, deep edition of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Looks like a pretty competitive field. I mean, those 2 horses that he won with were pretty impressive, and so I think it's going to come down to the, you can have a good horse, but you can get beat at the draw. It's very important racing luck. So, but right now, getting this close, I feel really good about my my horses in here. So, I mean, that's why it's championship racing. It's not a gimme.
Baffert discussing the Pletcher duo, Daredevil, ridiculously talented in the slop and in the mud. We know that, and that's really all we know at this stage, Christina.
Yeah, he ran a -2 last out on Thurgraph, which is the fastest of any 2-year-old pre-entered in this race. But as you say, we don't know if he can replicate that on a fast track. He's been working with multiple graded stakes winner Divine Oath, who's also for the Let's Go Racing stable. The Dam's 3 wins came sprinting, but he is a half to Albertus Maximus, a winner of the Dirt Mile in 08.
The expensive Carpe Diem, worth every dime so far.
Windstar has a double rooting interest in this race. Of course, they'd love to see this horse win, but they also stand Pioneer of the Nile, who's the sire of American Pharaoh. He has a high cruising speed, this horse, and he's tactical with a 2-turn victory under his belt.
Pletcher on his dynamic duo.
Well, I think these 2 compare more to Uncle Mo than Shanghai Bobby. Shanghai Bobby got his start in April at Aqueduct, his first start, and kind of had a steady series of races with the Track Baron at Belmont and the Hopeful and the Champagne, where both Carpe Diem and Daredevil are coming into the Breeders' Cup off just 2 starts. Both of these colts have shown similar ability to be able to win first time out at 5.5 furlongs in Carpe Diem's case, and then stretch out to a mile and a 16th, and then for Daredevil to have 1 6-furlong race and win the Champagne in his second start at a mile. So similar past performances coming up.
Give me the colt that wants to eat his webbing. Carpe Diem, Daredevil. In assessing their talent, who do you like more going in?
I respect both horses, Daredevil and Carpe Diem. If I had to pick one, though, I think it would have to be Carpe Diem. And maybe that's not fair to Daredevil just because he's been handed the off track in his first 2 career starts. He's been impressive, but we don't know if he can replicate that. He also has a pedigree that lends itself to up to about a mile, and he is going 2 turns for the first time. Whereas we mentioned with Carpe Diem, so much stamina in his pedigree. The Dam was a stakes winner routing, of course, by Giants Causeway. Shouldn't be any problem for him. Carpe Diem, I think, Lafitte, is a horse to get excited about this year, but also a horse to get excited about next year.
The juvenile in its entirety, exciting prospects, these 2-year-olds with American Pharaoh, Daredevil, and Carpe Diem. We move forward to the Breeders' Cup Turf. 16 pre-entered, 3 cross-entered. Europeans, Just the Judge, Secret Gesture, First Preference in the filly mare Turf. Chiquita, First Preference here. Along with those 3, defending champ Magician, Brown Panther, Flintshire, Telescope represent a strong European contingent, Christina, and Juddmont's Flintshire can flat out run. Second to Trev in the Arc, but nobody beats Trev in the Arc de Triomphe.
This will be his first start on firm ground. Initially, I was concerned that this would be his 3rd race in 6 weeks, plus all the travel, but he's only had 4 starts so far this year, and in 2013, he actually won 3 of 4 races in an 8-week period. Andre Fabre has had 4 Breeders' Cup winners in the past, 2 in this race, Within the Wings and Scirocco.
Sir Michael Stout's Telescope. 1 win this year, but it did take place in the King George VI Queen Elizabeth Stakes at Royal Ascot.
Yeah, his best races are on what the Euros call good to firm ground, so he's going to love it out here at Santa Anita. He was probably out sprinted early on by Australia and the Grey Gatsby and the Juddmont last time. Very impressive at Royal Ascot was this horse, but he hasn't always delivered on his incredibly high reputation.
Telescope's rider is Ryan Moore. Remember, it was Moore that piloted Magician to victory in last year's Breeders' Cup Turf. The only reason it was Moore is because Joey O'Brien couldn't do the weight. 3-year-olds in the Turf carry 122 pounds. Magician now an older horse will have to carry 126 pounds, so O'Brien can do 126. So expect to see Joey O'Brien riding for his dad in the defending champion, Ryan Moore, riding Telescope. When we come back, Social Circle, Millie Ball, what's trending as we get closer and closer to Breeders' Cup 31, plus the sprint and mile pre-entries. No Wise Dan equals a much bigger turnout for the mile.
It's Social Circle time, once again on pursuit of the Cup. And one of the 4 horses pre-entered in this year's Breeders' Cup, hoping to defend their title, Golden Sense tweets, "My new saddle towel has arrived from Breeders' Cup for the Dirt Mile. 652, the number on it, the same he trained in last year." And trainee Jamie Osborne checks in on Twitter saying, "Breeders' Cup's in 9 days. Toast is fit, healthy, and 20 kilos heavier than the day he won the UAE Derby." Well, rumor has it the Wheaties in his feed tub are what's packing on the pounds, 44 to be exact. And even though Scott's away nursing his sick daughter, Addie, pursuit wouldn't be the same without him participating in the show. So Hazelton chimed in this morning on Twitter in response to the word of Stevens returning. Breaking news, Gary Stevens back for the Breeders' Cup. And when you think about it, Lafitte, put it in perspective. What are the odds on any athlete returning this quickly from knee replacement surgery to win or even compete at the highest level? I mean, those odds, it's like the Royals trying to win the World Series.
Let's not go crazy. Lazarus would be proud of the comeback from the Iceman, Gary Stevens, riding in the Juvenile Phillies Turf for Chad Brown. Express Bet Breeders' Cup Sprint, you have 21 pre-entered here, 7 cross-entered. Renee's got Zip, First Preference, Turf Sprint, Capo Bastoni, Dirt Mile. Eddie's first Turf Sprint, and Mr. Sexy, First Preference, Turf Sprint as well. We take a look at Bakken, Christina, and this is not going to be his West Coast debut. He's been out here at Santa Anita before.
That's right. When Chad Brown worked for Bobby Frankel, he was actually based in California for 4 seasons. He knows what type of horse will run well here in Southern California. think it says a lot that he sent the horse for the Malibu in 2013, and you can't really hold the poor performance against him because he went to the sidelines for 6 months following that race. It's still showing a lot of confidence in his ability to bring him back for this Breeders' Cup.
Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky horse, Indianapolis. Maybe not so sneaky because of how much he does look like Secret Circle on paper from a season ago.
3 for 3 coming in. There have been 6 winners of the Breeders' Cup Sprint that have scored with a campaign of less than 5 prep races for that year. Bob Baffert has trained 4 of those 5. If anyone can get it done, B Squared can.
See about Indianapolis in the sprint. Baffert looking to go back-to-back in that event and win, I believe, his 5th overall Breeders' Cup Mile. Wise Dan, where have you gone? And this is what happens when the 2-time defending champ does not show up. You have 25 pre-entered, and you have 10 cross-entered. Day at the Spa, First Preference Filly Mare Turf, the Solana Filly Mare Turf, Silencio Turf Sprint, Bobby's Kitten Turf Sprint, Rock Me Baby Turf Sprint, Handsome Mike. Again, those are all first preference. Handsome Mike in the dirt mile. Of course, Christina just finished telling us it makes absolutely no difference whether or not you have first or second preference. What do you know about Anadin going in?
I know this could be an amazing story. He's a full brother to Goldakova, who won this race in 08, 09, and 2010. Trained by Freddie Head, of course, who trained Goldakova, rode Miesk in 87 and 88. The Prix de la Forêt, I think, was a little short for him. He was second to the top class Kingman at Deauville, third to Toronado and Verrazano in the Queen Anne. He hasn't won since 2013, but he has a legitimate chance next weekend.
What a story that would be, though, Goldakova's full brother. And what about Mustajib there in a race with like 400 other horses?
23 total in the Jersey Stakes. He beat 22 of them, going 7 furlongs at Royal Ascot. Dermot Weld, the trainer, is chasing his first Breeders' Cup win. He's had 14 starters. His best finish was 3rd in the mile with Brief Truce back in 1992.
This is our last Thursday night show. We go daily as of Saturday morning, correct?
We do. Only dark tomorrow. Daily as of Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific. All the works, news, and notes that you need to know right here on Pursuit.
Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Daily's beginning Saturday morning.